everybody. Welcome back for the Washington Law Update, the last session of the day. And it is my pleasure to introduce our speakers. We have Lauren Lyle-Stoltz. She is the Executive Director of the Washington State Quality Assurance Commission. And, oh, my notes just shifted on me. PQAC, the Washington State Quality Assurance Commission. Dr. Lauren Lyles was most recently a German Chancellor Fellow researching population health management, mainly in Germany and the US, as a solution to the rising healthcare costs and the fragmented healthcare infrastructure. Lauren graduated with her PhD, Doctor of Pharmacy, from the University of Mississippi School of Pharmacy. Following graduation, she completed her postdoctoral fellowship at Eli Lilly and Company in the US and international regulatory policy and strategy. The fellowship entailed her combining her patient experiences throughout her pharmacy curriculum, background from national pharmacy associations, including NACDS and NCPA, and the FDA, with the pharmaceutical industry to improve market access for innovative therapies for patients. She's also worked as a part-time as a pharmacist in a mail-order pharmacy, making sure the right medications got to the right patients in the criminal justice system. Following that, she served as the manager of pharmacy affairs at the Academy of Managed Care Pharmacy, which represents the professional interests of mostly pharmacists and physicians in managed care and helped to facilitate the transition to value-based healthcare. Terry Ferreira sends her regrets. She's not able to join as a speaker today, but we do also have Tim Lynch, who is the Vice President of Clinical Support Services and the Chief Pharmacy Officer for Multi-Care Health System. He has responsibility for imaging services, respiratory therapy, and pharmacy operations and associated services, including retail pharmacy, home infusion, diabetes education, and more. Tim received both his Bachelor of Science in Pharmacy and his Doctor of Pharmacy degree from the University of Washington School of Pharmacy. He received a Master's of Science in Healthcare Management from Troy University, completed a fellowship from the Advisory Board Company, completed a postgraduate pharmacy practice residency, and is an affiliate assistant professor at the University of Washington School of Pharmacy. Tim is the past president of the Washington State Pharmacy Association, as well as the past chair of ASHP's Pharmacy Business Management Section Advisory Group. And he is a current member of the section of Multi-Hospital Pharmacy Executive Committee. Tim has supported ASHP Residency Accreditation Services as a guest surveyor and was awarded fellowship status by ASHP. Tim is a past recipient of the Washington State Pharmacist of the Year and the Washington State Health System Pharmacist of the Year awards, and was recognized by the University of Washington School of Pharmacy Alumni of the Year for one of the school's 125th alumni legends. In addition, and his biggest role here, Tim is the current member and chair of the Washington State Pharmacy Quality Assurance Commission. So thank you both for coming and presenting today. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you, Jen.
So are we ready to get started, Jenny?
Yes, please take it away.
Perfect.
Your slides look great.
Perfect. Good evening, everyone. And Jenny, thank you for your gracious introduction. So sad we couldn't be in person for this meeting today, but it's really great to still have a platform to be able to connect to everyone during these times. So again, thank you for having us today, and we look forward to sharing with you this year's law and rules updates. I appreciate, again, everyone for hanging in there for the last session. And I hope you find this both informative as well as motivational, as the Commission has done a lot of great work and complex work to get to this point today of having the rules rewrite into effect as of July 1st, 2020, and also to continue to promote the mission of patient safety, quality, and innovation, and promoting also the pharmacist's professional judgment. So I would like to start us again. Well, Jenny just covered an introduction, so I'll just go ahead and skip that portion. And here is our kind of standard disclosure slide. So no conflicts or potential conflicts of interest with this presentation. Excuse me for that. An Adobe update. But we'll move into the next slide to cover today's objectives. Today we'll review changes to the current commission, new additions to the commission staff, how to engage and stay engaged with the Pharmacy Commission, while reviewing the Pharmacy Commission rule rewrite, goals and process and outcomes, new updated practices and regulations, and making sure that everyone's aware of all the resources on the Commission's webpage that we try to keep as up to date as possible. So those are the objectives for today. Again, this is just really a brief snapshot slide of the Department of Health. As many of you know, we're in an umbrella organization in Washington State where the Pharmacy Commission is a semi-autonomous commission under the Division of Health Systems Quality Assurance, also known as HSQA, which is a division within the department. And we sit along with about 84 plus other professionals and professions, commissions, and boards under the Health Professions Office under HSQA. And I think that's always just good for background knowledge. And we may have some new graduates on the call. And so now transitioning to our new members of the Pharmacy Commission. Most of you all are aware we have 15 wonderful commission members, 10 being pharmacists, 4 public members, and 1 pharmacy technician member. 2 of our newest members, as you can see on the slide, are Hawkins DeFrance, who's a nuclear pharmacist, and William Hayes, who serves as a pharmacist supervisor at the Department of Corrections. And so we're really excited to have those 2 new commission members to join the team. We currently do have 2 vacancies, and so we're actually in the recruitment process of filling those seats in the near future. Tim, do you have anything to add, or if you want to add anything to this slide?
No, just we're appreciative of the engagement that we have from our pharmacists and our public members and our technician. They've been a great addition and are a great part of the Pharmacy Commission, and they do a fantastic job of really studying the issues and making sure that we are in tune with what's happening in the pharmacy world, but also focusing on patient safety.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tim. And again, they were covered and highlighted in the NABP October newsletter, the 2 new commission members, as well as our new commission staff members. So we've expanded. We've hired 6 new members to the PQAC team in the past 6 to 7 months. And so here you'll see under the program staff, we do have a new pharmacist supervisor, Lisa Hunt, as well as a new deputy director, legislative coordinator, and administrative support. I did want to take a moment to highlight our PQAC inspectors. We are now at full capacity with our newest hire, Mariam Bolas, who is our pharmacist inspector covering Area 6, which is primarily the heart of King County. And so we're really excited to have a full team, and everyone has really been just working together just in preparation of the new rules and providing technical assistance as much as possible throughout this time. And I also want to turn everyone's attention to some of the offices that PQAC collaborates with in order to execute the work of the commission, whether it's the Office of Customer Service and Credentialing, which some people are aware that is a separate office that we work with, and they process all of licensure. Our legal service team, who works on the enforcement end and disciplinary end on behalf of the commission, our rules team, and the Attorney General's office, who supports and works closely with the commission. So we really have a robust shop and to meet the demand and the call of of the mission for the commission. Okay, I'm going to go to the next slide. So this slide just really, again, reminds everyone that the commission meets about every 6 weeks. These are usually 2-day meetings, but we've gone back and forth. Sometimes they're 1-day meetings, just depending on the topics and the need at the time. If most of you were with us through the height of COVID early in March, and we were having special meetings about twice or sometimes 3 times a week. And so the commission really does try to be available to make those executive decisions when they need to be made. But this is the standard timeline for when the commission usually meets. And the 3-hour CE per renewal cycle for attending is usually attributed to those attending. So this is a nice segue into who does the commission regulate, and I think it's pretty well known that the commission has oversight over pharmacists and other pharmacy personnel. So I don't really want to spend time on that, but I did just again want to make licensees and everyone aware that the commission has a pretty broad oversight over 17 different license types in Washington State, and a lot of those are facilities. In addition to pharmacy, naturally, but manufacturers and wholesalers, the dog handlers is just always a fun one to throw out there. But this is just really critical that the work is never ending, and it's definitely stretches across a broad array of professions. So I think that's always great to just have that background as we move forward to our law and rule update. Again, the best ways to engage with the commission as well as the team is attend our meetings. When I meet with other executive directors for the other commissions and boards, they talk a lot about whether it's minimum participation in their meetings, and I always brag that we probably have one of the most active commissions in the state. Jokingly so, but I do think we really have an engaged community of pharmacists and to-be pharmacists and technicians, and so I think that's really great. So attending commission meetings, special meetings, our subcommittee meetings. I think we had one last month, Tim. We had a compounding subcommittee last month. Toward the end of November, on November 19th, you should have received a notice. We're going to have a subcommittee meeting on HPAC, so Hospital Pharmacy Associated Clinics. And so that's been a meeting that's been a high priority of the commissions, and so we'll have that before our December commission business meeting. Other ways to participate, there's usually some stakeholder meetings held by the Department of Health. I encourage everyone to either sign up for a gut delivery notice to get those communications when those stakeholder events happen, because I think that's the biggest piece to really be in the know, is to get those updates. And you can always subscribe by just going to the DOH website. Submitting questions to the general inbox. Admittedly so, there has been somewhat of a delay in some of the responses in the inbox, just because of the large amount and influx of questions coming in right now, as well as training our new team. So hopefully that will continuously improve over time. And so, but please don't hesitate to reach out, because we will follow up with you. Again, reaching out to your pharmacy inspector. As you saw on the earlier slide, if you don't know who your pharmacy inspector is, go to our website, figure out what area, what county you're in, and see which inspector is assigned to you. And there is a phone number on the website, and we're trying to update that with an email address in the near future. And of course, you can reach out to me, our new deputy director and pharmacy supervisor, anytime. Our information is on the PQUAT website. It's public information, so don't hesitate to reach out. And I will always direct people to review the information on the website, because a lot of questions that you've asked, I promise you someone else has already asked or in the process of asking. So we do keep our FAQs on the website. They're general FAQs, but then we have some more specific ones that are tailored to the new rules, and we'll actually get to some of those today. So really excited about that. Tim, I don't know if you want to add anything on this slide. I want to make sure I gave you an opportunity to.
No, I think you did a great job, Lauren. And just to reiterate that the commission is very eager to hear from our regulated community and our other stakeholders. So please do not hesitate to reach out. I think one thing that Lauren didn't touch on was the fact that due to COVID, there are a number of furloughs and other things that may impact the ability of the staff to return information, but it's not because they do not want to, it's just the reality of the situation in terms of needing to be on furlough, and that might delay things. In addition to just having a new staff that's learning how to operate in a virtual world. So if you can give us a little bit of grace as we encounter different situations and the time to respond, that would be appreciated.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Tim. I completely forgot about the furloughs. That's absolutely right. All state agencies are undergoing furloughs right now. So it has been a newer challenge, but one that we're trying to rise to the occasion. So thanks for that, and thanks everyone for your patience. So I want to hand this off to Tim to transition us to the rules rewrite update. And again, I do want to say that all of our licensees should have received a postcard the week of July 1st. And it didn't cover all the rules on the postcard, but we did try to make sure everyone was in the know that, the commission has been working on this for a very long time. And also just try to give you some tips and some highlights or some breadcrumbs to direct you to the new rules on our website, and to keep you engaged, and also just being up to date with practice. So Tim, I'll turn it over to you and go to the next slide for you.
Great, thanks, Lauren. One of the things I think people need to understand in terms of rules versus RCWs. So RCWs really are statutes. Those are the things that are defined by the legislature, and it requires legislative action in order to change those. Examples of this might include our compounding definition. Currently, the combining of 2 or more ingredients is compounding. So that's an RCW that defines that. That is not a commission rule. Rules are things that the commission has the power to create. And many of you have been involved in the rule rewrite and the process we went through in terms of defining the rule, stakeholdering, getting feedback, and then refining the rule until it's completed. The commission really values participation from our stakeholders in the rule writing process. And I know we've gone through a couple of years of rule rewrite that had tremendous engagement from our regulated community, but we also want that continued participation as we go forward, because we have, as we've released the new rules, we've identified areas where we need to do some refinement and changes, or where there might be the need for new rules. So that's where we have the opportunity for our stakeholders to get involved and really support that. One of the things that you can do to learn about the rule writing process is to sign up on GovDelivery and get updates. And that's how we encourage people to come and participate in the stakeholdering process and evaluate the rules that we are proposing. And the website, as Lauren mentioned previously, has information on our rule hearings and other activities. So please make sure that you're engaged and check into that and become involved in those. We're certainly encouraging active participation. Also, the commission has information on our meetings and other documents that are located on the commission website. The legislative session is coming up, and so that's where there will be some legislative activity. And again, please stay posted with that, and we will do our best to keep our stakeholders informed of that. Next slide, Lauren. So as you recall, previously to July 1, we had 33 chapters, and we converted that to one cohesive chapter. The rules previously were very detailed. They were very prescriptive in their actions. Also, because of a rules moratorium that existed previously, the commission was not able to update rules for a number of years. And as a result, the rules became very dated and really did not reflect contemporary practice. So we needed a way to address that. As we're required to review our rules periodically and identify things that need to be updated. And as we started that process of updating one rule, we identified that it impacted many, many other rules that were dated as well, and just became a very, very labor-intensive task. And for those that have gone through the rule rewrite process with the commission over the last few years, you recognize that it is a tremendous amount of work to update a rule, let alone an entire rule book. So we essentially reached a decision point where we had to make a shift from updating individual rules to really, in essence, creating new rules. And that's what we did. And this was really part of the NABP task force recommendation as well. NABP was encouraging the work of boards of pharmacy to really look at their rules and to think about technologies and other information and other changes that might come in order to create the rules that impact pharmacy. And so we adopted a philosophy early on in the rule rewrite process that really looked at stopping the approval of one-off technologies. As you recall, for those that have been involved for a number of years, you'll recognize that people would come before us and ask for approval of a specific technology that they were considering or pilot projects. And the commission reached a point where you really could not do that. And so as we looked at the new rules process, we set some governing philosophies that really focus on getting away from prescriptive rules that dictated if A, then B, then C, or specific parameters, to really relying on the profession and the professionalism of pharmacy practice, really to help drive the way pharmacy is operated. So we moved away from prescriptive rules. We defined guardrails that really focus on ensuring patient safety. That is the tenet and the reason the Pharmacy Commission exists. We exist to regulate the profession, but paramount to that is really ensuring patient safety. And so that was a governing principle of what we did. But we also wanted to create rules that contemplated 20 years into the future. What technologies might exist? What will the practice look like in many years? So we really wanted to create non-prescriptive and rules that could adapt to practice as things evolve and change. We also really wanted to support innovation and rely on the professional judgment of our pharmacists, in terms of governing the profession, responsibility with the pharmacist permit holder, and then also make sure that we've identified outcomes related to patient safety that really ensure that that's what our goal of the commission. So in terms of the rule rewrite, some of the additional guiding principles was just quality assurance and quality improvement, record keeping and accountability, security and confidentiality, the training of our staff, patient safety, as I've mentioned previously, and then how do we address emergency situations? Go to the next slide, Lauren. Thank you. So as you can see, this is the impact of our work over the last few years. We had 33 chapters. That's an incredible amount of chapters, incredible amount of information that people had to have, and oftentimes they weren't always in sync. The commission also, as you might recognize, and Lauren mentioned previously, is that it doesn't just regulate individuals, but it also regulates businesses, wholesalers. There's a number of things that we regulate, entities that possess drugs, etc. So there are a number of things that the commission really has oversight of, and what we wanted to do was combine all of that into a much more unified rule set. Go to the next slide, Lauren. And so after 33 chapters, we got to one chapter, and that includes 4 different parts. Part 1 is the general licensing. Part 2 are the general provisions. Part 3 are professional standards, and Part 4 are operational standards. And effective July 1, those rules became in effect this year. Next slide. So just a quick overview of what we're looking at for the different components of our single chapter, which is 246 and 945 WAC. Part 1 covers the general provisions of pharmacy practice, as well as all the drugs under the Commission's authority. This includes operations for the Commission, inspection requirements, prescriptions and refill requirements, labeling, etc. So those are just the general operations of the pharmacy. Part 2 is the licensing for all personnel, facilities, and production or distribution under the Commission's authority. So these are the registration requirements, the continuing education, the qualifications, the renewals, and the fees associated with that. Part 3 covers the professional standards for all pharmacy personnel under the Commission's jurisdiction. These are things such as unauthorized conduct, delegated and non-delegable tasks, counseling, refills, and continuity of care, prescription notification, transfers, etc. It also covers patient rights and sexual misconduct rules. And then Part 4 covers the operational standards of the facilities. This includes building standards, dispensing and reporting requirements, technology implementation, and other components. Next slide. So the new rules incorporate the current WACs, the amended WACs, and our newly created WACs. They also cover the hospital-associated clinics, emergency rules, and make those permanent rules. As you recall, for those that have attended our meetings, we have engaged in emergency rule implementation while we were working through the new rule rewrite process. Current practices, including the current policy interpretive statements, while allowing for flexibility as practice evolves. And then also updates our outdated practices, eliminates redundancies, and allows a pharmacist to use professional judgment. And again, our primary focus is patient safety and the quality of care we're delivering. Next slide. So just some general things are that the new rules are converting, as you might recall, from a 1-year renewal cycle to a 2-year renewal cycle for pharmacy personnel. Licensing, we have eliminated the 1,500 internship hours. They're no longer required for graduating pharmacists as of July 1, 2020. Some additional changes. Say again, Lauren?
Oh, sorry, Tim. I was just saying the documentation is no longer required.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, because it is included in the, go ahead.
Curriculum, yeah.
correct. Thank you for that cross check. Some of the additional changes are the entities or the licensees must designate a replacement for the responsible pharmacy manager within 30 days after a position has been vacated. Also, the pharmacy manager must report their appointment to the commission within 10 days. And then there must be a controlled substance inventory by the new responsible pharmacy manager within 30 days of appointments.
So I'll pick it up here, Tim.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah, sure thing. So hopefully everyone is still with us, and we're making great progress. So here are some of the operational changes from the new rules. A pharmacist must offer to counsel on new drug therapies or changes in therapy. Again, I would direct everyone, if you're taking notes, this is WAC 246-945-325. And this is upon the initial fill of a prescription is when the pharmacist must offer to counsel on a new drug or changes in therapy. Also, in that same WAC provision, it also has some discretion for the pharmacist. So when the pharmacist is using their professional judgment and determines that counseling is necessary, they could also offer to counsel. So I would encourage everyone to just look at 246-945-325. That's the counseling in the new WAC. And so you can get additional information outside of just this bullet point. But we wanted to make sure that we brought your attention to this update. Next is the required elements of a prescription are now specified in the regulation. And so, as Tim mentioned, in part 1 of the new rules, where it identifies a lot of those requirements, prescription requirements, that's 246-945-010 through 013, and that talks about the validity of a prescription, what needs to be included on a prescription, adaptation of a prescription. So you can really find all of that in part 1. So it's all together, super, for the most part, super clear. But I think that's just a really good resource that we wanted to direct everyone's attention to, that this is now really explained in rule based on feedback and insight from stakeholders. The next point is prescription transfers must be by electronic means, including facsimile. I will say this has been one of the most popular questions among licensees, and so we did do an FAQ on this on our website, and we'll actually get to that a little bit later. But transfers must now be by electronic means, but it does include fax. And again, when you look at this rule, it does have an exception for if there is an emergency. And so again, we'll talk about that a little bit later, but that's WAC 246-945-345. Again, next bullet point is in emergent situations, pharmacists may perform a verbal prescription transfers. Okay, so we got there sooner than I anticipated, but we're going to talk about it again a little bit later once we get toward the FAQs toward the end of the slide set. So you are allowed to make a verbal prescription transfer if it is an emergent situation, and that is up to the pharmacist's professional judgment. So again, reiterating that point about how do we transition to leveraging that pharmacist's autonomy in the practice setting. The last bullet point here is refilling prescriptions. Again, all of this is in part 1. Refilling prescriptions allows a pharmacist to renew a non-controlled prescription one time in 6 months. The prescriber must be updated within 1 business day. Again, there is more information and more conditions in this rule, but we just wanted to bring your attention to a change here. For example, it must be a chronic condition that patient is on. That pharmacist needs to make make an effort to contact that provider, and that provider cannot be reached to authorize the prescription, as well as some other provisions and conditions that must be met in order to act upon this provision. So just wanted to make sure that was clear. And again, that's all in part 1 of the new rules under WAC 246945330. So I'm going to go to our next slide here. So next we have prescription adaptation. So as mentioned earlier, this is right under prescription requirements and validity prescriptions. Prescription adaptation rules allow pharmacists to make changes to the quantity, package size, and dosage form without prior provider approval. And so with this one, again, this is the first part of this WAC. It says upon the patient's consent. So that is extremely important in order to adapt that prescription. And again, the commission sets guardrails on what other conditions need to be met to allow that to happen, meaning what can you change. And so you can find that information again if you're taking notes, WAC 246945335, which allows the pharmacist to adapt prescription as long as the provider has also not prohibited that the pharmacist cannot make that change or make that adaptation. So that's another requirement in there. So the next point, we have differential hours. I know some of you may be smiling about this one if I could see you. Differential hour requirements are no longer in rule, and I know we did receive a couple of applications of this, but this is no longer in rules. We've removed the application from the website to cut down on confusion, and so hopefully we've been able to address any issues with those who did submit an application. If not, please feel free to shoot me an email after the meeting or on Monday, whatever works for you. So that is no longer a requirement in rule. Third point, specialized functions were removed in the rules, and so there's no longer this separate approval of a pharmacy technician functions, and it's now left to the discretion of the pharmacist based on that staff member's education and training and skill set. However, I will say that it does need to be updated in the AUP, which would need to be approved by the commission. And Tam, please feel free to add anything if I'd missed anything on any of these points. Okay. Next, we have minimum facility standards establishes the base criteria that all facilities must meet in order to dispense drugs. And this really gets to Tim's point about how do we harmonize the rules around the various facilities in a way that makes sense, in a way that's safe. And so if you visit 246945410, that's the facility standards minimum requirements WAC. And so there you can see what all those guardrails are for facility types. And unless it specifically calls out a pharmacy, then it applies to all facilities, or if it specifically calls out an HCE or an HPAC, it applies to all facilities. And it does say that at the top of Part 4. When you turn to Part 4, it says that right at the top that this applies to all facility types unless specifically called out. So that's important to keep in mind. And then this last bullet point, it sets standards for drugs stored outside of the pharmacy. And we've also received several questions on this WAC. I think it's 455. I'm doing that from memory. I think it's 455. But we do have an FAQ on this one as well about, what does it mean? What standards need to be met if I want to store my drugs outside of a pharmacy? And the commission has done, I think, a really nice job in outlining what those parameters are. So,
Lauren, can I jump in with a piggybacking question on that?
Yeah.
What about,
sure.
what about storing, say, an older cold storage vaccine in a laboratory refrigerator or freezer that might also have samples in it? Do you know if there's any kind of what we might need to tweak for that. I guess if you haven't looked into it, let's talk next week.
I haven't looked into that, Jenny, but storing the pharmacy's drugs outside of the pharmacy in a lab's refrigerator.
Well, the Pfizer vaccine that may come to market is an ultra cold storage, which requires more of a laboratory freezer. And so I know many hospitals in particular are looking at maybe trying to borrow a shelf in a laboratory freezer, but they can't necessarily have that freezer just dedicated to drug space. So I think we should talk next week about that and try to make a plan.
Yeah, we can definitely talk about it, and yeah, it definitely has to, at least wherever those drugs are stored, it has to possess some type of license for it to be stored there, right? So we can talk about that offline, and I know that's definitely been a conversation around those vaccines. So happy to engage. And Tim, I don't know if you had anything to add to that.
No, I think we can certainly gather some more information, Lauren, and evaluate that. Our goal is really to ensure that we have the ability to ensure vaccines are able to be administered, and obviously this is a unique situation that we'll take into consideration.
Absolutely. All right, Jenny, I'm going to go to the next slide. Is that okay?
Oh yeah, thanks.
Okay, great. So here on this slide, we have additional changes. Again, first point is allows pharmacists to partially fill opioid prescriptions, and everyone might be familiar with this one. This came from the substitute Senate Bill 5380, which again allowed for the pharmacist to partially fill it, and I think that passed a couple of years ago. So just wanted to make sure we captured that. The temporary practice permit that was introduced via a governor's waiver allows for out-of-state interns to receive a temporary practice permit, as well as new graduates if they meet a certain set of criteria. Again, that information can be found on the Commission's Plan 19, which is under our What's New tab. And again, this PowerPoint has all of these resources, so it'll be really easy to use our hyperlinks. Next, electronic systems are updated to require all pharmacies to use an electronic system for patient medical records, prescriptions, chart orders, and controlled substances records. And again, this is just one of those new requirements that these systems be electronic to maintain these records. Again, just moving into the era of increasing patient safety with automation. Next is pharmacy storing, dispensing, and delivering drugs without a pharmacist on site. This, again, is a really popular question amongst licensees and stakeholders. And so we did do, again, several FAQs on this topic and because a lot of people are asking, does this apply to me? And, we can't tell you specifically, but we can try to give you as much information as possible so you can make that decision based on your model. And so, again, we'll get to some of those FAQs, but they are on our website, and that is WAC 246-945-430. Finally, on this page, we have new reporting requirements for wholesalers who receive a suspicious order. If anyone's been attending our commission meetings for the past couple of months, this has been a hot topic where we've engaged with several wholesalers on making sure that we can start developing a system to receive suspicious order reports, as this is now a requirement that they would need to submit this to the commission for review. This is my favorite slide out of the deck. It just really summarizes all of the points that we've just tried to capture and organize, where you can find information quite easily. Just for example, part 1, how we talked about the prescription labeling and format. So you see that's right in the part B under part 1. So I think this is a really good slide if you're trying to, become well informed of the new rules and get your colleagues up to speed. So I would recommend reviewing the slide. Here we have a timeline of our journey through the new rules. We're now in November, and so I'm going to be asking my team to develop some type of a survey so we can do a gap analysis on, where are there still questions about the new rules. We've tried to incorporate and bring several new rules implementation questions to the commission meetings. We at least bring about 4 or 5 every meeting, as well as doing a lot of internal work and research on them. But we want to really get a sense from licensees and stakeholders about what's not clear. Where do you see more FAQs or educations, or how we can partner with WSPA to provide that information? So we really want to get a sense of where people are with the new rules. I will say, when we did a survey back in January, as you can see, the stakeholder insight survey, I think I recall a majority of people at least knew that there were new rules. So that was quite promising, and so I think we're moving in the right direction. And then well, not finally, but on this slide, we've just tried to capture some of the deliverables that we've been working on and that we actually put in our rules implementation plan that's on our website. And so several of these deliverables have been completed, and you can find those on our webpage. And this is the phases that I was mentioning earlier on the timeline. We're in phase 3, and which began on July 1st. And so again, we're just working on education, both internally and externally, and collaborating to make sure that we can get everyone up to speed and informed. So now I just want to try to summarize this slide up quickly. It provides you links to a lot of the things that I kept referring to and Tim kept referring to throughout the presentation. Again, if you have questions, please email us at pharmacyrules@doh.law.gov, and just please be patient on a response, as well as our policies and procedure webpage. And if you go to the FAQ page, you have to scroll to the bottom or click the hyperlink, and it'll drop you down to the bottom. Next, we get into the fun part, which are some of the FAQs. And so this was a really popular question at the height of the new rules going into effect. My preceptor certification status shows profession discontinue. What does that mean? We got several calls and emails on this. So since this is no longer in the new rules and is no longer a requirement for a pharmacist to hold this preceptor certification when supervising interns or technicians in training, is no longer there's no longer a need to have the status. And so you will see this on your if you check on the provider credential search page, that this profession has been discontinued. And we also remove those applications from the website. So to cut down on confusion. So again, tell your colleagues, tell your peers that this is no longer a requirement. Okay, I'll turn it back over to Tim.
Great. One of the other questions that we've gotten frequently is it still required to report a change in differential hours? And I know we covered this a little bit earlier in the presentation, but there is no longer that requirement for a pharmacy that's located in another establishment to report differential hours. We do think it's important to ensure that your clientele and your patients are aware of your hours. So please do try to make sure that that's posted in the location, just so patients and others are aware of those hours. Another question we've got is, or we've received is, do all prescription transfers need to be transferred by electronic means? And yes, according to 246-945-345, they for all non-controlled legend drugs, they must be transferred by electronic means, and that includes by fax, except in emergencies. Controlled substance prescriptions still must conform to 21 CFR section 1306.25, as is stated in WAC 246-945-345 subpoint 1. Next slide. This question has come to us as well, and that is, can transferring a prescription by electronic means be delegated to a pharmacy technician? And the answer is yes. A pharmacy technician can transfer a non-controlled prescription under the immediate supervision of a pharmacist by electronic means, and that includes facsimile. And I'll turn it back over to Lauren.
I had such a nice flow going and unmuting myself timely, but thanks, Tim. So the next FAQ is about storing drugs off-site, storing, dispensing, and delivering drugs off-site without a pharmacist on site. This is the FAQ I was referring to earlier. That's on our website. Again, in addition to that pharmacy applying with all applicable pharmacy laws and rules, there are also some requirements in 430 for this type of situation. So I would please direct your attention to that WAC. And also in WAC 246945420 sub 4, it requires that pharmacies that exclusively store those drugs off-site, where a pharmacist is not on site, that they shall maintain a perpetual inventory. So that's something that's not necessarily in 430, but it's another WAC that applies in this situation when a pharmacist is not on site. And so again, we pulled only a couple of FAQs for this presentation. There are more on the website, so I encourage you to go check those out. Next, this was actually brought to me by our inspection team, was that they were seeing a lot of issues with the closing of pharmacies, and a lot of people are still under the old rules with the 15 days that the commission must be notified. And in the new rules, pharmacies are required to notify the commission of a permanent closure no later than 30 calendar days prior to the anticipated permanent closure date. And so that's in 480 sub 2A. And the inspectors have been providing a lot of technical assistance on this issue. So we developed an FAQ to, again, further educate people that this was a change. And so please get this information into the commission for any permanent closures. Okay, next we have what's the commission's position on USP 800 and USP 825 under the new rules. Again, there have been several conversations and discussions on this topic, and at the October 1st business meeting, the commission determined that it would not find deficiencies or take enforcement action against its licensees for failure to comply with USP 800 or 825 through March 31st, 2021. We are developing a guidance document that was approved by the commission, but it has to undergo internal review at the Department of Health. And so we hope to get that out really soon, but want to make sure that you guys could capture one of those decisions made at the commission meeting. This will also be in the minutes at the December meeting that we'll review for the commissioner's approval. Again, when appropriate, the commission will revisit its use of enforcement discretion for USP 800 and 825. Any decision to modify the commission's use of enforcement discretion for USP 800 and 825 will be during an open public meeting before the March date and communicated to licensees through GovDelivery. And again, we can't emphasize it enough to sign up for GovDelivery so you can stay up to date and abreast of this information. And stay informed and reach out if you have questions. So again, Tim, did you want to add anything to this slide?
No, I think you covered it well. I think, you know, I think the challenge with USP and the appeal process that went through has certainly delayed this, but we're continuing to monitor the situation, and we'll be able to, you know, respond as soon as we get more information from USP.
Yeah, thanks for that, Tim. And again, that was through some commission meetings and a subcommittee with really engaged licensees. So thank you all for participating in that. So now switching gears a little bit from the new rules to talk about PQAC legislative requirements. So there were two bills passed. I'm sorry.
I have two questions from that last little section that I can prime in here. One is, will a currently licensed facility need to change or update their facility because of the new rules? For instance, a reverse distributor or a wholesaler. And I think I'll just chime in for you and say, yes, they're expected to meet the new rules. There's a little bit of an education and has been an ease-in period, but that you do expect sites to meet the new RCWs and WACs altogether, correct?
Correct.
And then with regard to the electronic transfers being required, somebody asked about out-of-state transfers where they may not have the same requirement.
You know, that is a really great question that we did receive, and we're currently reviewing it right now. So whoever asked that question, Jenny, if you could get me their contact information, I can follow up. And again, we'll share this information publicly once we send out a good delivery. So thank you for that question.
Great, I will share it over. Thank you.
Thanks. So just to keep us on schedule here, the legislative requirements that were attached to PQAC by the legislature and from the 2020 session was substitute Senate Bill 6086, which is remote dispensing of opioid use disorder medications. And again, this extends the pharmacy's license to a remote dispensing site where technology is used to dispense FDA-approved indicated OUD medications. Each remote dispensing site must be registered with the commission. We do have applications on our website for this new registration, and we are in the process of adopting rules to establish the minimum standards for the OUD remote dispensing site. So stay tuned for more information on rules as it pertains to the legislature's passage of 6086. The next bill that passed in the 2020 session was Substitute Senate Bill 6526 about the reuse of unexpired drugs. The commission shall adopt rules allowing the Department of Corrections pharmacies to accept returns and reuse of unexpired medication. And then a second provision that was in this bill was that the commission may adopt rules allowing the safe donation of prescription drugs, including but not limited to allowing pharmacy to pharmacy donation. I know everyone may be aware we already have something on the books similar to 6526, but this does authorize rulemaking authority to the commission. And so this is something we're currently doing research and have already engaged with some stakeholders who are interested in this legislation. So just be on the lookout for those future rulemaking projects. As promised, here's a resource page. Oh, Tim, is this you or me? Oh, nope,
I think it's you. Yeah.
I think it's me. Okay. Here's a resource. What was that, Tim?
I said, I think you're the closer.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So again, this is our resource page. Here you have linked Plan 19, which has all the actions that the Commission has engaged in and taken throughout our current pandemic and situation. Next is the policy and procedure page, and as you can see, everything else that may be helpful resources of other FAQs that the Commission currently has. I know the most popular question that every time we do talk about COVID-19 or the plan is, when will the proclamations be extended or will they be extended? And you know, I can't answer that today. The current expiration date for those proclamations are November 9th. But as soon as we know, which is usually the night before, if it is extended by the four corners of the legislature, we usually send that communication out to all of our licensees. So again, November 9th is the expiration date for those proclamations, and a brief summary of that is in our Plan 19 of what's been waived. Here are the various contacts to reach out to the commission, and so that is in the slides that provided. And I just want to thank everyone for joining us for the last WSPA's annual meeting. Our next commission meeting is December 3rd and 4th, and thank you. Tim?